Well, it already has lost 90 some percent of its power since inception. So it's already in that camp. The question is, will it happen? Will it continue to happen? I think just like any other fiat currency, it's going to devalue over time. Um, whether or not you're comparing it to real assets or other currencies is kind of a separate topic. So you can have a declining dollar index. You can have a rising dollar index, yeah, meaning it's strengthening versus other currencies at a time when all currencies are devaluing versus, say, gold or real estate or stocks or whatever the case may be. My overall kind of base case is that in the next couple of years, we're probably going to enter a dollar bear cycle. It's something I continue to monitor, though. I think that currency trends are not something that I want to stand in front of. It's kind of like standing in front of a freight train. So I want to see price action start to roll over. So it's something that I continue to monitor. Basically, there's a couple key variables to watch. One is things like rate differentials and quantitative tightening. So basically the things that the Fed can control. And that's why a lot of people are dollar bullish right now, because the Fed's kind of, talking about being hawkish, at least relative to, say, the ECB or the Bank of Japan, which are some of the big currency pairs. On the other hand, it's also dictated by capital flows, right? So if the Fed's hawkishness puts pressure on the NASDAQ, there's so much capital around the world kind of pouring into the NASDAQ, pouring into U.S. tech stocks over the past several years. And if that capital decides to go into value, decides to go into other markets, you can get a dollar weakening period. And so I think overall, we're looking at a somewhat more weak dollar, compared to, say, I think it could take some pressure off of emerging markets. But it's something I continue to watch for price confirmation. And basically, when the dollar kind of goes up sharply to the upside, you start to get indicators generally that the Fed might end up having to back off. I think a big surprise to the markets would be that if say both Gareth and I are right, that the Fed is unable to get the hawkishness that they've described, right? If the economy continues to decelerate and they have to back off some of their tightening plans, you could get a big trend shift in the dollar as markets begin pricing that in and potentially rotating capital elsewhere. One thing worth pointing out is that in World War I and World War II, the UK went into that period as the global reserve currency. You had the rising power, which was the United States, and you had a similar dynamic where the world, the world currency UK, they were running these structural trade deficits while the United States was running structural trade surpluses. And after you had the event of those wars, and you had all currencies devalue versus gold. The UK devalued as much or more as many other currencies. So, for example, they devalued more than the dollar. And so being a world reserve currency, when the regime shifts, does not protect you from currency devaluations, just like other currencies. Mm-hmm. So I'm bullish on the proliferation of stable coins. I ever since January 2021, I've been saying that market's going to get a lot bigger. And it did go from something like 40 billion to like 140 billion in a year. And I do think that market's going to get bigger over time. There are use cases. So I'm not bullish on the dollar, but for example, if you were in Argentina or Venezuela or Turkey, the dollar is pretty attractive. Stable coins are attractive to a lot of emerging market users. And they are also serving as a unit of account for offshore cryptocurrency exchanges. It used to be Bitcoin. With the invention of stable coins, they can use those. And so, because I don't think the dollar is going to zero overnight, right? I don't think we're going to be here a year later and talk about how the dollar is done now, right? So I think this is going to be a long-term issue of just ongoing devaluation. And so I think that stable coins are going to play a role going forward. I think they're just as prone to devaluation as the underlying currency behind them. So I think that they can be a low volatility way of transferring and temporarily storing value. But they're no substitute for things like Bitcoin or gold or hard assets in general. I'm pretty bullish on gold. For a brief history, I turned bullish on gold in late 2018, early 2019. In my August 2020 newsletter, I got more near-term cautious on it. I said basically my bullishness has shifted to Bitcoin in the near term, and that I was, I think that gold had played out the first part of its kind of run here, but I was still kind of long-term bullish. And then in March 2021, I started to get bullish again, which was kind of a false start, right? So, analysts like to talk about their wins. Sometimes, things don't work out the way I expected. So gold, I started to see signs of a breakout, and instead it just kind of rolled back over and kept going sideways. So it didn't have like a breakdown either, just kind of continued its sideways trend. And then starting a couple weeks ago, I started to see a second attempt here at a gold breakout, and I think this one probably has more legs to it. And I'm starting to see it confirmed in price. And so, for example, with a declining PMI, basically risk off of environment, gold kind of finally has its chance to kind of decouple from S&P 500 to the upside. And so that combination of decelerating economy, and if the Fed indeed is unable to be as hawkish as is currently priced in, that could be a bullish catalyst for gold. And so overall, I do think it's a positive risk reward here. In addition, we're seeing, just price confirmation. The S&P 500 priced in gold has been rolling over and giving some pretty bullish signals in gold's favor. So I think that as a defensive play, as part of a portfolio, I am bullish on gold for 2022. It's hard to have gold rally a ton when other risk assets are rallying as too, because you can say, well, why would I buy gold when I can just buy the S&P 500? That's going straight up too. And so it's really once the other things start to encounter weakness that people can look around and say, well, what's doing well? And one of them is, I think, in this declining PMI environment, is gold.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.